Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Blue skies smiling at me, nothing but blue skies do I see.
So now we are officially 20% below the recent highs on the S&P, closing in bear market territory. Ed, what's your advice to investors?
Well, I think between now and year end, there isn't much left here. We're probably going to continue to see this downward pressure. There is a lot of year-end selling going on. You know, people have accumulated lots of profits in this bull market, and I think with the sell-off that we've had, they'd like to keep as much as they can.
Why chase after returns when you can simply cut costs? Backfiring mistake number 4 coming right up.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with offices in Louisville and Bowling Green. Your host, 5-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement, and I am your host, retirement specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And for the next 28 minutes or so, I and my faithful sidekick, Aaron Orander, am going to share with you the biggest risk savers take with their money, one that can really backfire on you at a time in your life when you least expect it, retirement. And we're also going to show you how you can avoid this risk and still be worry-free. Well, in case you're just now joining us, folks, we are in our 4th episode of backfiring things that can happen to your retirement. And this is going to be some good stuff. As I said, for the past 3 weeks, we've covered these 4 different items that either financial advisors or sometimes the financial world continues to peddle over onto savers. Sometimes they work. Sometimes it's just like any loaded gun, they can backfire. Now, remember, folks, this show is dedicated to savers. So let's define a saver before we get too far into the program. A saver is someone who is much more concerned with the return of their money as opposed to on it. And today you'll see what makes our process, the Worry-Free Retirement, and the philosophy and the approach of those from Wall Street so different. Now, 3 weeks ago, we covered backfiring mistake number 1, maxing out your 401k plan. Then 2 weeks ago on this show, we did a deep dive into mistake number 2, assuming, many people will tell you, that you will not need life insurance in retirement. How ridiculous of a notion is that? And then last week, we shared the dangers of savers moving their money. We call it from Main Street. That's the world of safety, security, and guarantees. And yes, we know it's low rates of return, but we'll get into how we can manage to be worry-free by still earning low rates of return, okay? And Wall Street coaxing those savers over into a world, we call Wall Street, of course, of risk and uncertainty. As you can see from last week also on the whiteboard, we covered mistake number 4 in very, very much detail, and it's going to lead to even more detail today. And it's this notion of rather than chasing returns, why in the world don't we just attack cost? You know, as I thought about the content of today's show and how best to communicate this potentially very, very complicated subject of chasing returns and cutting cost, I think it's important for us all to remember that, again, even as savers, I'm a saver myself, that we all want to earn the highest return possible. Of course, that's very important. And we all want to get a high return on our money because we work very hard on our money. We want the money, especially into retirement, to work for us. Often say, unfortunately, that one of the worst things that happened in this country years ago was the reduction of interest rates by the Federal Reserve. Why? Because in the good old days of those high interest rates, a saver could run on down to the local bank, dump his or her $300,000 in a 5-year CD. Let's say they paid a guaranteed rate of 5%, 6%, whatever. Well, they're guaranteed to make $15,000, $16,000, $18,000 a year, whatever, guaranteed, without ever having to touch the principal. There was no need in those days for savers to leave Main Street and head on over to Wall Street and chase all these returns. They could get 6% on their money without the fear of market losses, without the fear of fees, and on and on and on. But that was then, and this is now. With banks paying next to nothing on your money, and it appears that the Fed is going to continue to keep short-term interest rates at these all-time lows, savers unfortunately have been tempted to leave the confines of safety and security and head on over to Wall Street to pursue these potential, remember potential, they're not guaranteed, high returns that Wall Street keeps promising us over the long term, which is the whole problem. This departure from guaranteed returns to chasing higher returns can truly backfire on you. So Tony, you say, what am I supposed to do? I mean, I can't live off 2% CDs. I don't have enough money. I feel like I'm going to run out. I keep seeing all these people on TV telling me how great the stock market is, and over the last 50 years, how much money I could have made had I been in the stock market. I mean, is that the answer? Am I just going to have to live with the idea of taking risk on my money? And I would say, you do not. In fact, I'm going to share with you the secret sauce behind the worry-free retirement. Again, it's not about chasing returns. It's about attacking costs. I'm going to show you how to do just that. You stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Tired of the financial world chasing after your money? Dinner seminar invitations? Annoying pop-up ads on your computer from out-of-state advisors? It all adds up to confusion. There is a better way. Meet in person with nationally recognized retirement specialist Tony Walker. Tony's personal one-on-one approach has helped thousands of savers worry less about money, and best of all, Tony's right in our own backyard. Don't leave your retirement to chance. Make the short drive to meet in person with Tony now. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Ever heard the old saying, I feel like a dog chasing my own tail? Did you realize dogs actually chase their tails? And the reason they chase the tails is they're trying to catch something. Now my thoughts, why not safely invest your money? In other words, stop chasing your tail, stop chasing after returns in hopes of getting something that you can't catch anyway. You see, these returns promised by Wall Street are not guaranteed. And we can go back and look at past historical returns all we want to, but with the recent downturn we had back in December of 2018, we saw how quickly the market can plummet. So the key is, do we chase returns or do we think about the idea of cost? You know, I was talking to somebody the other day about this, Aaron, America's favorite financial sidekick, and I was trying to explain this to him, and I said, Aaron, you know, if you went home and your wife Jessica was complaining about it being cold, all right, and she kept cranking up the heat to the house, and you noticed that the back door was wide open, you'd probably get up and close the back door. You wouldn't call the heat and air guy and ask him to put in a big, powerful new unit, right? You wouldn't want to spend extra money. What you want to do is close the back door because heat is escaping out the back door. Well, it's the same way with your finances, folks. Many of you have the back door open to all of your investments. So the idea is we got to close the back door. Problem is, most people don't know how to do that. So what we're going to do, I'm going to take a stroll over here to our screen, and we're going to talk about these 4 costs. What are they, and how do we keep from chasing our tail and keep more money in our pocket? Well, obviously the first cost that we've got is taxes. Now there's all kinds of taxes. There's state taxes, local taxes, FICA taxes, and of course the biggie is federal taxes. What I've seen over my practice is most people don't have a handle on taxes. And in many cases, your accountant or CPA is not doing taxes in the future. They're not working with retirement planning taxes such as we do. We don't do tax preparation. That's the job of my CPA. What we're trying to do is how do we minimize taxes on your retirement accounts? So obviously, the number one huge cost is taxes. Recently, we even hosted a movie called The Power of Zero. The tax train is coming. And many of the experts out there, the economists, are saying with the huge amount of debt that this country has, trillions and trillions, I think it's up to 22 trillion now, and with 26 trillion left roughly in accounts that have not been taxed, what would you think is going to be the future of our taxes? You think tax rates will go up or down? Probably go up. So this is why you need to start a game plan now to deal with those future taxes. Let's look at this tax return here. You might be saying, well, Tony, what is a 1040 anyway? Folks, this is what I need to see when we meet. Many people are hesitant to share with me a tax return. That would be like going to a doctor and say, Doc, I'm really aching. I can't figure what's going on. And the doctor recommends an x-ray and you won't let him x-ray you. We have to see the tax return, and we're very good at looking and finding ways we can try to minimize those taxes, especially as you're pulling out money in retirement. Our second huge cost is interest rate cost. You know, as a full-time financial advisor, this is my side gig, folks. What I do through the week is meet with a lot of people, and I see a lot of different things. I saw this the other day. Someone was maxing out their 401k, putting as much money into it as they could. In fact, they gave me the last quarter statement, and they lost money. Even though they're putting all this money in, they still lost money. And I started looking at everything, and I said, whoa, wait a minute here. I said, what's this credit card debt over here? How much are you paying on that? And the young lady said, I think it's about 14% interest. And I said, let me ask you a question. If you could go to your 401k plan, and if they had an investment guaranteeing 14%, how much of your money would you put in there? She said, well, 100%. I can't get 14% guaranteed in the 401k. And I said, of course not, but you can guarantee yourself 14% by paying off this darn credit card. Forget maxing out the 401k, ma'am. We've got to get the credit card paid off. So interest rate is a huge killer, and you've got to deal with it. All right, cost number 3. What we're looking at here is the idea of insurance premiums, trying to reduce insurance premiums. In fact, I put this quote up here. Never cover risks that you can't handle on your own. What that means is don't give all this money to the insurance company for them to cover risks that you yourself could handle. I was brought up in the insurance business, started in 1984, and my father-in-law quickly taught me, Tony, the insurance companies are there to cover the big risks. They're not there to cover the small risks. It always tickles me. I'll go through and check out an appliance or something or buy something at one of the electronics stores. It's like $85. And they look at me and they go, sir, would you like to buy a warranty on that? I'm thinking, what? A warranty? I mean, if I lose the thing, it's $85. I'm going to pay $10 a month for 3 months. I don't know. That's the craziest thing I've heard. So basically deductibles, term life insurance. A lot of these insurances you've got out there, folks, need to be examined, and we are very, very efficient at looking at different types of insurance to make sure those insurance are cost effective, and of course to be making sure that you're not spending more money than you need to on insurance. So definitely we can look at insurance costs and get those down for you. And then finally, the real biggie here, number 4, this is what we deal with all the time, is trying to eliminate or minimize fees on your money. Let me give you an example on this. Someone came in the other night and they could not figure out what the fees were on their investment account. This was at least 30 pages from this large brokerage firm, and I started digging through there. It was their February statement, and I said, I can't figure out the fees either. And she said, well, I couldn't either. So I called them, and I finally found somebody that could tell me. She said, between me and my husband, and they had decent size accounts, but she said, between me and my husband, they are charging us, they just found this out, almost $10,000 a year in fees. Now think about this, folks. $10,000 for what? If the market goes down, they still make their fees. So example of this, if you go to a money manager, even if you put money with us in our Charles Schwab platform, we have to charge fees. But here's how this works. When you make money, we make money, or they make money, who's ever handling it, and they're going to make it based on their fees. So let's use the example of a $500,000 account. The typical money manager out there is charging 1.5%. Think about this. That's $7,500 per year, whether you make money or not. We come in and you say, Tony, can you handle it with Charles Schwab? We do it. We do it all in-house. You work with me personally. We make our own investment decisions. You don't have to deal with Schwab. We just handle them as their custodian. We do everything for you. Our fee is a whopping 0.6%. So $7,500 with no guarantees if you're going to pay the other guys, or in our case, 6% of $500,000 is $3,000. So right there, just in fee savings alone per year is $4,500. Now let's think about something. We offer long-term care and a lot of insurance that people, when you get into retirement, want. Well, let's say we've just got through looking at long-term care insurance. You with me so far? You want to buy long-term care, but the premium is exactly $4,500, and you say, well, I can't find that money, Tony. Well, in this example, if we saved you $4,500 in fees, you could take that same money, of course, and just buy the long-term care. So why not build in some protection some guaranteed protection versus leaving the back door open on the house and letting all this heat out the back door. So folks, here's the thing. These 4 costs are real. If you can minimize cost, if you can reduce these costs, and we can help you look at this and examine this, we don't have to take as much risk with your money. It's really simple, and savers love this concept. Now, here's what you need to do. To set up a time to meet with me or talk to me by phone, there's absolutely no cost or obligation. Right now, why don't you just log on to our website at TonyWalkerFinancial.com and click on that Let's Get Started. Well, when we come back, I'm going to take an interesting scenario I learned from a gentleman. We're going to play a little tic-tac-toe. I said dough, not toe. Be right back with a whiteboard, some good stuff. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement.
Tired of the roller coaster ride of the stock market? Let Tony Walker show you how to smooth out the ride with your money. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started.
And now it's time for Tony in the Trenches.
Well, our Tony in the Trenches actually comes from Rick, who is right here in Louisville, Kentucky. And Rick asks, Tony, I know you're a big fan of annuities, but my question is, what happens to the annuity when, at least he said when I die? That's a great question, Rick, and it all depends. The biggest misconception, though, is all annuities go away when you die, and that is not accurate. Here's what I'd recommend, Rick, and any of you watching the show, if you own an annuity, thinking about buying an annuity, maybe you've been to a dinner seminar recently pitching annuities, go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Just scroll down to the free annuity decision guide for savers. You can download that absolutely free. And then after you read it, give us a call. We're experts on these annuities, and I can show you the pros and cons and which annuities do go away at death and which continue on. Again, that's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Well, here we are, and we're talking about attacking costs. And I'm going to do something I've never done. I'm actually going to kind of play a little game with you called tic-tac-toe. And we're talking about 3 different investment options, and we're going to try to analyze these investments as an understanding of cost. Remember, when I'm doing retirement planning, I always have 2 key things I'm trying to look for when I'm working with savers. Number 1, how much access do you want to this money? In other words, how quickly do you want to get your hands on it without penalties? That's number 1. And then secondly, how much money can we kind of set aside that you want guaranteed? And then finally, how much money are you okay taking a little bit of risk with, okay? So in this example, we're imagining, just for illustrative purposes, that you have a savings account or CD, and let's just say it pays 0% interest. We're just using the extreme. So it pays 0% interest. We go over here. Our other option is we can get a fixed interest annuity, and we can get these for you through our office. Right now, they're guaranteed at about 3.5%, 3.8% for 5 years. Guaranteed, okay? Pretty good stuff. Or we could go out here and, maybe the guy on the radio keeps talking about earning 10% in a growth mutual fund. Okay, we'll give you that. So it makes 10%. And then we're going to come down just like tic-tac-toe, and we're going to say, what about tic-tac-dough? Where would these 3 assets fit in terms of our understanding of accessibility, risk, and return? This is some cool stuff here. So what we're going to do, if you look at the tic-tac-dough, up here, anything up this way would be very low returns or next to nothing. In this example, that would be the CD. However, very low risk and 100% access. So let's put the CD right there, okay? So it falls in the low return, low risk, complete access in this example. Now we come way over here on the tic-tac-dough, and we see everything down here is high risk, potentially very high returns, but less access to the money, and that would be, I'm going to have to really write this small, that would be the growth mutual fund, okay? That might go right here. Now, in the middle, of course, because we're coming up and over, kind of getting in the middle here, we have the fixed annuity. So it would go right here. So let's explain this from a planning standpoint and how much flexibility you're going to have here. So if somebody came into me and let's say they're, maybe they've got a 401k and they want to roll that over and it's got $300,000, but they also have about $20,000 in the bank, all right, that's already been taxed. And they say, Tony, I got to roll this 401k over. I'm going to start my Social Security. I need some access to my money, but also want some of that mailbox money you're talking about. How do I do all this, and how do I determine how to lay this out? Well, of course, we couldn't do that on the show because I'd have to meet with the individual, go through their taxes, go through their needs, do an assessment, but this is what it's going through in my mind. We have to determine how much access does that person want to the money. So this person might have said, well, Tony, I know one thing I'm going to need. This happens a lot. Some people might drive company cars or whatever. Well, they got to replace that car if they retire. So they may want to pay cash for a car, so they've got to have access to it. So through our Charles Schwab platform, we can actually come up here and we might actually purchase some short-term CDs or government bonds for access. We might put some of that money in a fixed annuity. And if it's a fixed interest annuity, it might be 5 years. We might do a fixed indexed annuity for 10 or more. And then possibly, depends on the saver's level of risk, we might put a little bit in what we call ETFs, which are set to have some growth, and that would be through our Charles Schwab platform. But the beauty of this is what we're doing is we're checking off all three boxes, and hopefully you feel like you've got a winning combination. You've got safety and security. You've got access to your money. You've got really strong guarantees right here. And if you want to take a little bit of risk for your money, if you're a saver, we can take some risk. We're not going to take a lot. But more importantly, look at this. No cost for this, no cost for this, and anything we put here is only 0.6%. So what we're doing here is we're doing planning, folks. We're not just blindly throwing our money out there chasing our tail in hopes that we'll have enough money to live on and hopes that we don't run out. So what about you? You might be sitting there saying, well, Tony, I really do feel like I'm blindly following the herd here. I don't have a game plan. I have no idea what my fees are. I don't know my cost. And you know what? Is there any way you could just shed some light on our finances? Absolutely. This is all I do day in and day out is meet with savers and help them understand their options, planning for retirement, and already retired. So if you're getting to that point, if you're already retired, or if you're thinking about retiring in the next 5, 10 years, we need to talk. And that's the best part because it's absolutely free. All you got to do is go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Once you're there, just click on that Let's Get Started. That information is confidentially sent to our offices, and we will make that happen at either our Bowling Green or Louisville, Kentucky offices. Well, what does the Bible have to say about shedding light on a subject to expel some of the myths and darkness about things? It has a whole lot to share about this subject, but as you know, first, I got to get me a cup of coffee. You stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Win or lose, games are a blast, but playing around with your retirement is serious business. So don't leave your retirement to chance. Get a retirement game plan from well-known retirement specialist Tony Walker. Learn how to be worry-free in retirement with a safe and simple game plan that includes mailbox money for life. To meet in person with Tony, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Well, assuming you're a regular viewer of the WorryFree Retirement TV show, you'll occasionally see our adventures of Stella. Stella is our beloved Black Russian Terrier back home and quite the lover of yellow balls. Here's a video of me throwing one up in the driveway. I mean, this dog can't get enough of these yellow balls. But anyway, the other night, in the middle of the night, I had to let out Stella in the backyard, which is totally fenced in with a pretty high fence. And I guess it was the way the landscape lights were shining in the backyard around all the landscaping. And I started looking and I swore I saw a deer standing in the mulch. I mean, we have a lot of deer in our area, so that would be reasonable, but I'd never seen one inside the fence, especially with a fence that high. So Stella goes down the steps. I'm watching this deer. She's walking right towards the deer. And Stella, who's bred as a guard dog, walks right by this supposed deer. Now, Stella, again, doesn't pay a bit of attention. I'm thinking, this is crazy. So I run back up the steps, hit on the switch to the floodlights and light the whole backyard up. And guess what? No deer. Nothing there at all. But what was happening, and I realized that the shadows from the lights, the darkness with a little bit of light, had created this effect of a deer when my eyes really played tricks on me. And you might say, Tony, what is the point of this story? Well, it's just like trying to find those hidden costs that are buried in your finances. Sometimes you got to shed some light on them. And it's the same way with our spiritual walk. Problem is, the world doesn't have many answers for us here. In fact, if left to the world, they just soon keep us in the dark as opposed to showing us the light. Now, in order to see the reality of something, whether it's a deer standing in our mulch or chasing your tail trying to find the highest investment rate of return, you got to use light to expose the truth. The floodlight at my home exposed the fact that there was really no deer standing there. And unfortunately, the world would just as soon, again, us avoid the light and rather keep us in the darkness. Now, Jesus talks about this in Matthew 5:15. He says, "Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a basket. Instead, they set it on a lamp stand and gives light to everyone in the house." In other words, the light does no good if you keep the light hidden, but rather raise the light up, expel the darkness so you can see what the heck's going on. So you may be saying, Tony, I do read the Bible. I still feel like sometimes I'm in the dark. How do you respond to that, Tony? Do you have any thoughts on that? Well, let's go over to John 8:12. Interesting words here, and this is where the faith really comes in. It says, Jesus says in 8:12, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." I don't know about you, but if I have to choose between following along the darkness between a lot of these fools out in here in the world, I've decided to follow the Lord and follow the light. Well, how about you? You might be sitting there saying, Tony, that's great, but you know what? Let's get back to this advice stuff. I don't feel like I've got anybody in my corner. In fact, speaking of darkness, I feel like I'm really in the dark when it comes to my finances. Well, you don't have to be in the dark any longer. This is all I do for a living, folks. I'm coming on my 35th year. I've literally worked with thousands of savers, and I understand the mind of a saver very well. So if we can help you use and enjoy and protect more of your money, if we can help you cut costs and keep more of your money in your pocket instead of out here chasing after these shadows, chasing after these rates of return that are not guaranteed, let me offer this to you. Why don't you go right now, flip the switch on your computer or your mobile device, go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Just click on that Let's Get Started button. Now what happens there, that goes to our offices in Bowling Green, Kentucky. We will reach out to you very confidentially, and you can either talk with me by phone or if it merits, we will meet in person, you and I face to face at either our Bowling Green or Louisville, Kentucky offices. By the way, we're over there on WLEX in Lexington. For you in Lexington, that's my old stomping ground as a kid. Make the short drive to Louisville. I think I'll make it worth your while. We'll meet for about 30 minutes. You have nothing to lose and possibly a lot to gain. So again, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Well, this concludes our 4-part series on backfiring your finances. When we come back next week, we're going to start a brand new 5-part series. We're going to break down the unique 5 steps of my proprietary process called the Worry-Free Retirement. Some really good stuff. You're going to learn a lot over the next 5 weeks. But you remember, between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.
Thank you for watching the Worry-Free Retirement with Tony Walker. If you need a safe and simple game plan for your retirement, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and schedule a free, no-obligation meeting with Tony.